Hello everyone, welcome to my trade recap. This week I totaled up to $11,000. And one thing I do have to preface is that I've been trading for many years, and two, I do have a heavier sized account, so I'm able to see these types of gains. But this trade recap is solely for education purposes, not to tell you I made this much money this past week. I would like to show you my trades, and I did have a very high win rate this week as well. And I want to show you exactly why. So let's get right into the trade recap. Alrighty, so the first trade of the week, which was Monday, September 22nd, were some circle calls. So what I wanted to see initially coming into today was I did want to trade circle, and I wanted to see a dump down to 135, which would be my entry price, and I wanted to see a clear bounce on 135. If we did end up breaking 135 and holding below there, I wouldn't have taken this entry. But after this candle, we ended up holding right above 135. So I took my entry on circle, and my initial profit target was 140, which we reached later in the day. But I ended up exiting most of my contracts at 138 area. So I got about a almost $4 range out of that, which I was very happy with. And then exited the rest of my contracts for close to break even, or just up 10%, which was a win for me. But then Circle did end up running later. But if you trade Circle, you know those contracts are absolutely brutal. So my next trade was actually Circle once again. So let me delete that real quick. So what I did trade was actually this reject on Circle. So when the market did open, what I initially wanted to see is us holding below this 140 area, which is what we continuously saw. We rejected there. And then we had a bearish rejecting candle stick right there. So my initial TP was right up here. After this bearish candle right here, we had that confirmation that we were rejecting 140, and I was obviously also watching Bitcoin in confluence with that. And then my target profit for this was this 135 area, and we ended up hitting that pretty nicely right after my entry on Circle. So I did hold some runners, and I held runners all the way down until close to 130, and I ended up exiting around this 131, 132 area. So Circle was also a pretty W trade. And then on Wednesday, I actually ended up taking two trades. So for my first trade, I did take Tesla puts. So if we go back to Wednesday, and as you can see here, and for some reason I'm on the daily time frame. Awesome. And let's go back to Wednesday. All right, so here we have it. So on Wednesday, my initial bias for the day was a bearish bias. So what I was really looking for was to see a nice rejection at this 440 area, which we continuously saw multiple times. But the reason I didn't take my entry until around this candle right here was because volume was low and the rest of the market was not moving, and I wanted to see these continuous rejections each time showing more weakness and more weakness, causing us to then later get this nice dump. And then my full TP was supposed to be around 430, but I ended up just exiting all of my contracts down here because we started to see this candle bounce back up. I started to see bullish volume come in, so I just took my exit and called it a day. And then my next trade for Wednesday was MSTR. So if we take a look at MSTR, let's go back to Wednesday as well. So this was my trade on MSTR on Wednesday. Pretty nice there. Basically the same analysis as Tesla. We continued to jump into this 335 area, which was my rejection level. So that was my main resistance level. We also have a nice supply zone up here. We continue to tap into it, and what I was actually waiting for on MSTR was to see Bitcoin give us some downside and for Bitcoin to kind of hold out just a bit. So that is exactly what we saw. And then I entered up here at this 335 area. And I took exit down here a couple contracts because that was already down $5. And then I held my runners all the way down to 325 range. So all the way down to this 325 area. So this was almost a $10 play, which was quite magnificent. So I did lie. I actually did take 3 trades on Wednesday. But this circle trade was actually more of a swing trade, and as you can see it right here. So I took this trade close to market open because of this rejection, continuous rejection at 135. We rejected 135 here, we came back down, and we came back up. We rejected 135 again, and I ended up entering contracts having the conviction to hold overnight, with just less risk because I know in the morning I could wake up and these contracts could end up being worthless. So I went in with less risk, but I did get an entire $10 downside move from these contracts, and it was beautiful. So this was my initial entry, which was near market close on Wednesday, and then my take profit was near, and actually even lower, was at 125 range, was my take profit area. And I did not take any day trades Thursday. I called it a day. I took my swing trade, I exited it, called it a day. And now for my final and last trade, which was on Friday. And Fridays, I only take one trade, one and done. That's how I do things. But this trade was a little bit more unfortunate. So I did take my entry, and now on Fridays with zero dated, especially with Meta, these contracts are super, super liquid. They move, they get a ton of movement on them. So I did end up initially entering after we saw this break below 750 area. I saw that we weren't going to hold up 750, so I did end up entering around this candle, and I took profits out for 35% around this 746 range. Took some profits out there, held the rest of my cons, got stopped out for 10%, and then we ended up dumping to my target profit area, which was exactly 740. So this day was a little bit, I guess, more disappointing. But the one thing that I do differently than you guys, and I'm not saying this to put you down, I'm saying this from experience, is that I took this trade, I got stopped out, and I said, oh well, that's it. One and done for my Friday. I'm done. And a lot of you guys, that would have gotten straight to your head, and you would have went back in the markets and you would have re-entered. And that is something that I used to do. That is something that I had to work on for freaking years. Oh my God. I would just get so greedy, and I would want to re-enter because I'm like, well, now I'm stopped out and this sucks and I know I'm right. You're right, but you have to take it, accept it, and move on. When I'm trading on Fridays, it's a one and done trade day. One trade, that's it, or sometimes no trades at all because it is Friday. Friday is the day where most people blow their accounts, where most people lose money, and I do not want to end up ruining my Friday. I do not want to end up ruining the great, awesome week I had. So take this as a lesson from my Friday. Things happen. Nothing ever goes perfectly to plan, especially when you're day trading. So make sure you understand that. But those are my trades that I took this week. In total, not too many trades, and no day trades on Thursday either. So very happy with this past week, but I will see you guys